Good morning, it's Jonathan Barrett with the War Report, the Week Ahead Report, the report where we talk about all the up-and-coming economic events, just to get our minds set for how these markets will trade this week. Obviously a very big challenge last week, and I think this week's going to be just as much of a challenge. Major concerns at the moment obviously have to do with what's happening in the Middle East. There are about 12 different countries obviously having a little bit of turmoil. The key will be as to how the current administrations and governments actually react. Obviously there's been quite a lot of social unrest in these areas, so I guess it's just a matter of just sitting down and analysing. As a result of that, though, the crude market has been relatively stable, and I think that is quite interesting. I mean, the chances are that it'll probably test back through that US 100, given that we have more unrest. But over the weekend we did have quite a bit, but the market seems to be placated. So I think that this comes well in face of the argument that we have that there is enough supply, and or the social unrest hasn't extended to those nations in the Middle East that actually primarily do a lot of exporting and or have control of the waterways. So quite interesting there on what's happening there, and we just have to keep close to it. Okay, let's have a little bit of a wrap on what's happening with the markets. I guess the key here always is to have a little bit of a check as to what happened on Friday night. Gives a little bit of a view, so we know exactly where we're going. I guess the Dow closed up good, so this is another indication. The Dow is up 61 points. An indication, I think, here that the market is quite comfortable with what's happening in the Middle East, because if they weren't that comfortable, oil would be through 103, and the Dow Jones would be under considerable pressure. The Dow closed up 61 points at 12,130. S&P was up 13. The Nasdaq was up 43. The top 50 was up 35. The FTSE was up 81. The CAC is up 60 and the DAX is up 54. So what are we worrying about? I guess that's what the markets are telling us. So we do think things are relatively placated there, and the market has absorbed what's happening. The S&P, the SPY was up 20 at 4,839. Just remember, this still all does remain a wild card. I mean, there is a wild card out there, so you know, I feel that that to me is an issue. And I think that to me is something that remains a wild card. So I tend to be a little bit concerned on all of that. Okay, now let's have a look at the general commodity side of it. Obviously, now let's look at the dollar first. Dollar index 77.25. If this thing in the Gulf escalates, we actually see people will go to the dollar. So there you can see it's actually starting to trend up a little bit there from that low of 77. That's a little bit encouraging. That'll also keep a little bit of top on what's happening there with commodities. Just looking at that, there we go, double low there, double bottom. So if we take out last night's high, then probably expect the US dollar to start to firm. Righty-ho, let's have a look now at the Aussie. Aussie, as we suggested, has a good chart. They're very strong. Looking is just about to break out through that top side. If you are short, I would be cautious the next day or two. And if it takes out some of these highs, then you'd want to reverse and perhaps go long, because this should see that Aussie up to 103, 105. So this sort of movement does look quite good. It's an ascending wedge, and these sorts of things tend to break out to the top side. Euro 137.56, dollar yen 81.72. Just found a little bit of a low there. Onto the commodities. So let's have a look at crude. It's obviously the big key here, mover and shaker. And when you look at the crude market, 98.19 is where it's steady today. At the moment, and there you are, just seen that bit of a gap through the last couple of days. It should tighten itself up a little bit, but that's just the front month. But I think if it takes out, obviously, that 103, there's a different ball game. Have a look at the hourly chart. I think that's a bit closer, and you can see that it's sort of behaving in a way that, you know, like if it takes out this low down here, there you got that low there, 96.41. It's all over Red Rover. But if it starts to maintain the pressure here, and it goes sideways, then there's an attempt to top through that 100 again. So at the moment, we've just got to wait and see. Okay, how would you position yourself with crude? If you're not already long, I think it'd probably be very hard, but you just have to, I think, analyse the next 3 or 4 days worth of trading. Having a look at what's happening in the gold market, 1409 is where she is, just going sideways. Probably expect more sideways price action whilst we've got concerns in the Middle East. And the fact that it's not going up suggests that people are saying that, well, if it's not going up, inflation's still a bit of an issue, but we're happy where the price is. I think more importantly, it'll be where we see particularly non-farm payrolls at the end of the week. come out as to a good indication of what will happen with gold. As with silver, same thing, 33, 34, quite a strong move there. It looks quite strong, probably an attempt back through to that 34, 35 level. Just feels like there's a very, very strong undercurrent. Okay, having a look at some of the others before we go on to the numbers for this week. I guess the most important thing is looking at our market, and when you do see it, you can say, well, look, she's just trading within this range again, and we've had a bit of a movement to the top side. I think pullbacks back to 4780, 4800 I'd be expected, and if anything there, I sort of don't mind where it is and what's happening, but a dip back to 4800 I think is quite good. So let's just see how that unfolds. Okay, so that's the SPY. That's it. So let's go and look at the economic calendar now. That's probably a big key for us. Economically, where are we placed? And I think we'll start from Monday. Monday in Australia, I think is probably, we've got in Australia inventories and company operating profits, which were quite good. And we've got some confidence numbers as well. In the States, in Japan, we've got vehicle and housing. Give us a good view of what's happening there. In the States, then we've got personal spending, which and personal income. Also the CPM out of Chicago and pending home sales. So I think quite important there. On Tuesday, in Australia, we've got the current account, Australian net exports of GDP. I think that's going to be an important one. And I think in Australia, we've got the ISM, Institute of Supply Managers Index, which is coming out. IMM prices paid, and also we've got Bernanke doing a bit of word, and we've got vehicle sales as well. Bernanke out there with some more comments locating the market. On Wednesday, we've got GDP, so that's expected to be relatively positive for the quarter, but year on year it's expected to come back a little bit. In the States, we've got NBA mortgage applications, Bernanke, and we've got the Fed beige book, so quite important there. That's Wednesday. Thursday, not a lot of major data out Thursday, relatively quiet. Obviously in Euro, we've got Euro GDP and stuff, Eurozone retail sales, etc. Continuing claims in the state, non-farm productivity, and the ISM composite in the States. But I think the big billing happens to be on Friday with the change in non-farm payrolls. We are expected a bullish number here, up 175, very strong. The unemployment rate is meant to tick up a little bit, so it's a little bit negative. But the market, I think, will factor that in and try and factor in a relatively negative number. We've also got factory orders too, which are meant to be up a little bit. So overall, I think that it should be quite an interesting week. I think stay tuned to what's happening in the Middle East. That'll be very keen. We're about to issue our oil review on what we feel the makeup and what's happening there in the Middle East, and where we think we actually feel the amount of time that goes past will consorb and hope to calm fears that we will have a supply crunch. And I think that to me is the key. The other key is that we've taken a look at how the social structure of the whole network, whole Middle East is put together in terms of which governments do what things. And I think we'll find that that'll have a major play in calming social unrest. I mean, as we mentioned, Saudi Arabia, contributing $400 billion to their nationals. So these sorts of plays, I think are quite interesting. And in the report, we actually put across some ideas, interesting ideas anyway. Okay, that's about it from me. I hope everyone has a great week. That's the Week Ahead report, and we'll certainly talk to you later. Bye for now.